How's 2 of you going?
I just did 7 days. I'm amazed, and I feel for people that have done a year in Victoria, and 14 days when it was, mind you, watching footy, watching your boys run around and not quite getting it done was probably made it even tougher. But we had an amazing week. I got to sit as the man in the stand for the week and watch a fair bit through Zoom, watch them go to work on what didn't work, how do we get back to what we do, and Burnsy, Rails and VB, they just smashed it out of the park. So really pleased to see how the place operated.
Did you sit on the couch, Nixie? Sorry, did you sit on the couch, mate? How did you watch the game? Was it at a computer or?
I sat on the couch. I sat on the couch as a sort of regular supporter. I'd love to say I enjoyed it. I didn't. It was tough to do, but it was a good experience. It was something that I'd say not many head coaches will get an opportunity. Well, we haven't in the past. Not many will get it in the future, probably. So to sit back away from it and get a look from a different perspective was interesting. And then to sit through the week and see how our guys put their heads down and have now gone, right, let's get back to us v a very good side in Brizzy. I'm really confident they've done the work this week.
Did you have any input at all for the game?
Yeah, I had a tiny bit of input, but I was also, I completely backed in Burnsy and the group from a coaching point of view. They're all very good coaches in their own right, so I was confident that they would get the job done, but I did have the ability to message through the box. Their phone might have just been put to the side at one point. But yeah, and it was a tough game for that as well. So I was very mindful of not trying to come in and fix the world from a broadcast view, which can be dangerous.
Did it knock you about?
Not at all, unfortunately. But fortunately, I guess, some people have done it tough and they do get pretty sick with it, but I was very lucky. I didn't really have any symptoms at all. That made it tougher though, because I'm like a caged lion in the house.
So a bit worse on Sunday.
An angry caged lion.
You didn't quite like what you saw from Riley O'Brien, I'm guessing.
It's not fair to say it that way. It's now looking at trying to get Riley back to his best more so. Sometimes you need to break that up, and we felt that was the case here. We also had some really good pressure from below from Strawny. So for us, it's been a conversation for a number of weeks. Rob, we know at his best, he's a very, very good ruckman in the competition, and he's not at his best at the moment. So we're going to try to find that. We're going to get him back to the SANFL level, possibly. They don't get a game this week, which is unfortunate, but even that might be a nice break for him to freshen him up. There's a few things we're working on in our game. It's the same for Rob. He's going to have a chance to go and work on those now.
What do you think he hasn't been at his best? I think only one mark in the last 2 weeks, for example. He tends to be playing well when he's taking a lot of those marks behind the ball. Why isn't he?
Yeah, and I'm very careful of not putting this just with Rob. When we play our style of footy, Rob is able to play his game. When Rob plays his game, we can play our style of footy. So there's this connection piece or cohesion that the last couple of weeks we've missed. We haven't got the game on our terms. We haven't played our style of footy. You look at the expectation that was on us pre the Giants game. Did it knock us around? Did it bring a bit of fear into us? Maybe about not getting the job done. We've done a lot. Had some really good conversations around that as a group, and then we've played a few very good football sides where we've been challenged and gone away from the way we play. So our challenge is now against another good football side. We've got a really tough run, is to get back to what we do. We know Brizzy are a fantastic footy side, but we've got to play our brand. And if we don't do that, then we're going to be exposed, and that's what's happened. So Rob's a product of us not connecting as a group.
So why is he the one to cop the insurance vote?
Well, he's not the one, is he? Because you're about to ask me about the 6 that we changed. Look, it's Rob's. There's other parts of his game as well. Okay, so I don't want to get lost in just Rob. This is across the board, and some will look at it from a ruck point of view. And you mentioned marking. There's a lot more in our connection, the way we defend, the way we get up the ground, our transition game. I don't want to go into too much of the detail with that, but we're working through. We've also got a team below that we've talked about a fair bit that are playing great footy at an SANFL level, that are putting pressure on from below, playing their roles each week, coming in and seeing me, weekly about how they can continue to get better, and so that's a really positive thing for us as a footy club. these guys that we're bringing in are in good form. Now, the step-up's a big step up, so that's what we'd like to do, is bring them in and challenge them.
So how does Rob get back in with no game? What would you need to see from him, or is it just strong gets a couple of weeks and then Rob has to have a crack at the sample?
By no means are we locked in that it's a couple of weeks, and because Rob isn't able to play this week. It could be that it's next week, but it's just breaking that. What is that trend at the moment for Rob? Not quite where he wants to be. Similar with Fogg, who we're bringing in this week. He's had 3 now back where, there's noise around about, does Fogg deserve to come in? We believe he does. We feel that he's gone away and worked on parts of his game we wanted him to. So he's not shooting a lot. He's not kicking 6. He's not kicking 8 at the SNFL level. We didn't ask him to go back there and do that. We asked him to go back and work on parts of his game, and we feel he'll come into the side this week and give us the best chance to win the game of footy.
What are those parts of his game?
We talked about him getting at the footy a lot more. We've been really pleased with that, both from a training point of view and what he's done in game. I wouldn't say it's clicked, which has put probably a statistic on the stat sheet at the end of the game, as far as, he's taken this many marks and kicked, but he's definitely gone out there and taken on board some of the feedback we've given him, some of the work he's done, and we've seen a real improvement in him. Some of the intensity that he's brought as well. So I'm confident that he'll be pretty fired up and ready to perform Saturday night.
Does that mean he gets up the ground a bit more? Is that what he's been doing, working up the ground a bit more than all?
Yeah, all of our forwards have been doing a bit of work in that space when required, getting up and competing for us. There's also that where we want him back in the goal square in front of goal. We want him, when he does get the ball in his hands, Fogg, he's pretty lethal in front of goal. So ultimately, you don't want to take their weapons away, so we won't be taking him too high.
You asked the same question of Matt Crouch to go back and play well on the sample, goes back and has 36, doesn't get the call up. What's the scenario there then?
Yeah, similar to what we just spoke through with Riley O'Brien. There's no locked-in time frame on what we're trying to do. There's guys playing at the AFL level that we want to continue to see and see them develop as well. Really pleased with what Matty did. Ultimate professional, the way he went about it, working with his teammates. He went back to Samford, showed that, he's a very, very good footballer. We know that. We'd love to see that again. But again, without them playing this week, does that mean he's not coming back in 2 weeks? No, that's not the case. So he'll get a chance to freshen up this weekend, which it's interesting. We sometimes when players don't play as a bad thing, I think it might be a good thing for some of our younger group.
Hey, Dick, just on text, you set out most of the captains one. He was locked in a conversation with you, but the trainers also regularly checked his pulse. Can you tell us what's going on there?
Yeah, I actually went over and had a chat to him during the session. He just felt a bit dizzy. Found himself, which can happen at times. We have a really light session today. You might have noticed it's get out there, get moving. He just didn't feel quite right at the start of the session, so he said, look, rather than trying to really push this and maybe do some damage, or he just wanted to make sure he was okay. And that's fair. We want to get him out on the ground, get him moving. He probably did enough of that at the start. And in the end, he started to feel a little bit better, got a bit of sugar in. And so, fingers crossed that's nothing.
No doubt. That's one.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt at the moment. As you said, he felt good by the end of the session. He just said, I didn't want to push it.
How's Harry going? Obviously played 4 games at the start, comes out for 2, comes in as the sub, plays one more, now he's back out again.
Yeah.
How do you sort of see where he's at the moment?
Yeah, tough for him, and that's a challenge as a young guy that's sort of a little bit on the edge. He was locked into our side, for the last couple of years. Again, things we're working on with Harry, things we're doing with other players as well, in around those similar positions. Now, this week we have Saligo comes into the side. We have Josh Shelley, who's starting to have a little bit more time on ball. Jackson Haitley's in there at the moment, working hard. Sam Berry. So, it's not always about the individual of why they're not there. Sometimes it is others are working through those positions. Shonny's doing stuff with his game at the moment where we know his weapons. I think we all see him. I think our supporters would love watching those when he's up and going and he's exploding and running with the footy. There's other parts of his game that we need him to have to a certain level. And when there's a transition part to the game where, we're a team that are getting scored 100 plus, when we lose games of footy. It's 120 odd. We can't be that team. Harry and a lot of us are doing work in that space. We need to limit that below 100. It needs to be down around 70 odd points for us to win games of footy because we're confident we can kick 100 when we're up and going.
What would you say to your forward group about that? Hard when you're not there on Sunday, but just about the ease in which the ball came out of your back line and come out and half the score, and sort of that nice work you're doing defensively. The forwards played
they play the same role as our mids and our backs. So it's interesting because a lot of people look at that and go, our forwards were no good on the weekend. That's not the case at all. That's our connection piece that we're talking about. You know, all 18 players are connected in that moment, and sometimes our forwards can be impacted by the way our midfielders and by the way our backs are positioned. So, I mean, you've nailed the area that we're really working on at the moment. And as the big wheel turns, you know, we work on some of our offence and getting the ball moving and going, and we're now working in a transition piece and hoping we don't lose that offence, because we do like the fact when we get the ball, our hands on the ball, we can get the game going.
So is that an education thing for the players or an execution?
It's execution, yeah. And we talked through that. What did we learn this week? Well, we learnt that if we don't play our way, we're not going to win too many games of football. It wasn't that we learnt how to defend or how to transition or how to play offence. We actually learn about cohesion and the importance of playing our way this week.
Franklin's omission, how much of that's down to form and how much of that's, I guess, the fact that you're coming up against a side that's perhaps going to be a little bit shorter up front?
Whose omission was that?
Billy.
With Billy? Yeah, we'll go in a little smaller behind the ball this week. And that's part of the decision, is to sort of look at the balance that we've got behind the footy. And again, it's not all about Billy. It's also about a few others that we're looking at as well, that we want to give the opportunity to. And, you know, so you'll probably see at times, you know, Dawson playing a bit of midfield this week. You'll see him at half back as well. You'll see Hinge, you know, bouncing between the two as well. So, yeah, for Billy, he's got a couple of areas of his game that he knows he wants to get to that level, and that's the sort of physicality side of things, you know, when we need him to get it done. But he's a very good reader of the play. Again, comes back, when we're connected up really well, you've seen the best of Billy Frampton, and we did that via the Bulldogs. It's one of our best team performances, and all of a sudden individuals start to jump off the page, you know.
There were players round one, he's still not back.
Yeah.
By round 9, I think it was only a couple of weeks ago, he said he was very close. What's the latest?
Yeah, he's still close and working on that game. This is a guy that's been out for 2 years, and, you know, we were looking at maybe a month back in the sample to see if we get that base fitness. We're still really pleased with how he's progressing. We've actually had the chat, Junior and I, and it's when we bring you back in, we want you in for the rest of the year. We want to make sure we get that right. We don't bring you back in too early, and, you know, with the step up from SNFL level to AFL, we don't want to then in 2 weeks' time go, okay, we've gone a little bit premature here. But yeah, we're really pleased. He's playing a little bit more on ball at SNFL level to get himself around and be able to do second, third, and fourth efforts in around the footy. And we're starting to see that sort of, you know, that development in his body again. But this is 2 years of not playing footy, so we're a little bit cautious with that. Really, really happy with where he's at the moment. And he was extremely close to coming in this week. But off the back of, you know, a little scare around the knee, which ended up being, you know, nothing major, then COVID, health and safety protocols, we weren't going to take a risk there. But he's feeling fantastic, freshening himself up, still trained really hard behind the scenes. And so, yeah, hopefully in time there's an opportunity for him.
A couple of weeks ago you went in unchanged, Nixie. I mean, that nice little patch you had, you know, you lost to Essendon, but then, you know, the Bulldogs and the Tigers. And how do you sort of look at 5 and 6 changes? Obviously Brody and Ned are, you know, your first choice. But
Yep.
is there a risk that you could be a little bit unstable by bringing in so many at once? Maybe like you know, players like routine and stability. Yeah,
there is. But with that, we've had 3, as you said, two of the guys we bring back in off of concussion, in Brody and Ned. Murphy's forced. You know, unfortunately, we just couldn't take a risk with Murph and around the neck. So, you know, there's 3 changes this week that we wouldn't normally have made. But at the same time, we're looking to, you know, perform at a level in games and win games of footy. And so I was the first to say when we came out of that patch and we didn't change the side, this is exactly how we want to be. We want to play the same group and build cohesion. When you're not winning games of footy, it's, you know, it's madness if you continue on with the same thing over and over. So we've got guys, as I said, that are playing good footy at a lower level that deserve the opportunity. Strawn's one of those. You know, he deserves the opportunity at AFL level. When he's come up previously, he's played some really good games of footy on some of the best. So we want to see that again, and he deserves that look. So there's a couple of sides to that.
Where do you think his strengths are?
Strawn is an extremely intelligent young man, so he finds his way to work through what is sometimes a massive challenge. that ruck role, there's a lot of physicality in it. Strawny doesn't have the same size as Rob, but I can tell you he challenges Rob every pre-season and off-season, every training session, and he finds a way. That's his weapon. That's what he does really well. And then he's surprisingly tall. He's got quite long reach, so pretty good position to play in the ruck.
How did the attacking use this week pull up?
I like to ring him because I was still in lockdown when we let him know, but VB got to him. Look, I think he was really pleased, and it's something that we've asked him to just keep his head down and keep going to work at SANFL level. He's really driven that young group back there, as that sort of lead figure in the midfield, and he's been doing that week in, week out, putting really strong performances out there. So it was actually hard to go to him each week and say, do it again for us, do it again. But this week was a nice one, even though it was over a phone call.
Your defenders a little sleepless this week, because the second scoring from stoppage and second scoring transition, and they're just defensive juggernaut. What has to change, you think, from your point of view, to limit them?
It was 70 inside 50s needs to change. And we put them under a lot of pressure. So we've got to do what we can as a team. The other 12 that are on the ground is to help those back six and not put them under constant pressure. And sometimes that's just fighting for another stoppage between the arcs. Sometimes that's keeping the ball in our front half. And hopefully Saturday night, most of it is us keeping the ball in our front half and not exposing. Because Brisbane are an outstanding footy team. You could talk about their mid six as well if you wanted, and their backs. So, but that's where they sit at the moment. They've had a lot of time to connect, to build their game. They've been around the mark. They're very well coached. So a big challenge for us.
What are you talking about? What Hadley's offering you at the moment?
Yeah, he had a different role on the weekend, and it was a tough role, probably one of the toughest in the game at the moment, with Cripps in such good form. We just love the fact he comes in, and Jacko will work and try and continuously give effort for us. We're now trying to build that connection with him and Lairdy. Benny Keys, Sam Berry's in there as well, as a young lad as well. So part of that is giving him the opportunity he deserves to play at the level and show us what he's got.
Away from footy, I know you sort of touched on what you did during the week. Is there anything, you read a book, did you cook any meals, play the guitar, or how'd you spend?
Play the guitar. I'm a bit late for that. something I wish I'd done. No FIFA. We got to know my kids a little bit better. We had a good time. It was brilliant. They're actually good kids. And my wife. No, we had. It was actually, when you talk about the things that I missed, there were some really positives in it. Sitting back and seeing things from afar, but also spending time with family. And be it I was locked in a house. The dog and I are good mates now as well, so that's good.
Just a word on Leon Cameron going quite well. What did you make his career at the Giants?
Yeah, I've already touched base with Leon. He was amazing for me. I think I've mentioned it to you guys before. You learn so much from people you get to work alongside. I learned so much in 12 months with Leon. Outstanding coach, even better person. Those of you who have met him, he's one of the greatest people you'll meet. And I've got no doubt, actually I've got to be careful how I say this because he'll have a go at me, but he's not a good one to sit back and relax and just spend time. He wants to be involved. And so, we spoke about what's next. I don't think he knows yet, but I've got no doubt he'll be somewhere in footy because he's, every single footy club would love to have him as part of their group. But it was good. I thought he did it really well yesterday. They're a great club. I still have a really soft spot for the Giants, apart from the fact they knocked us off 2 weeks ago. But they're a great footy club, really well run, and Leon was a big part of that. I have a huge respect for where they're at as a club.